track that launched legends, the asphalt that helped build NASCAR's soul. And right now, it's tearing the entire community apart. Dale Earnhardt Jr. poured everything into saving this place. But tonight, one of his biggest supporters just flipped the script. And what he said, nobody saw it coming. And hey, real quick, if you're a true NASCAR fan like me, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. NASCAR Nation news is just getting started. We're pushing toward our next subscriber milestone, and it's all about real talk from fans who live this sport every single week. All right, let's get into it. Back in April, Dale Jr. did something nobody expected. He climbed back behind the wheel at Nashville's Fairgrounds Speedway, a place he hadn't raced at since 1999. Think about that for a second. 25 years had passed, and when he returned, the place was completely sold out. The atmosphere was electric. Fans packed every corner of the facility, and one person who couldn't stop talking about it was Kenny Wallace. At the time, Wallace was one of the loudest voices supporting Dale Jr.'s vision. He called it the Dale Jr. effect. He credited the turnout, the excitement, and the entire atmosphere to Jr. Everything seemed to point in one direction. The fairgrounds was back, or at least that's what everyone thought. But here's the thing. That was only 2 months ago. Fast forward to last Sunday, Kenny Wallace heads over to Nashville Superspeedway, the newer, larger facility out in Lebanon. He watches Denny Hamlin take the win. He sees roughly 30,000 fans filling the property, and somewhere during that experience, something changes. Afterward, Wallace returns to his show, Coffee with Kenny, and then something unexpected happens. He says it, flat out. Maybe it's time to forget about the fairgrounds. That's a massive reversal. We're talking about the same Kenny Wallace who was praising Dale Jr.'s efforts just weeks earlier. The same guy who was celebrating the fairgrounds revival. Now he's suggesting they should, in his words, can the fairgrounds and focus on building something bigger elsewhere. At first, nobody saw it coming, but what happened next revealed just how divided this debate has become. Wallace's argument comes down to one thing: numbers, cold, hard numbers. The fairgrounds can hold around 15,000 people on a packed night. Nashville Superspeedway, that's pushing toward 38,000 seats, with room for even more growth. So Wallace asks a question that a lot of people don't want to answer. Why keep fighting over a small, limited facility when a much larger venue already exists nearby? And honestly, one of his points hit harder than expected. He talked about leaving the race. He described a mile-long line of cars trying to get out of the speedway. Then he asked a simple question. Could the fairgrounds even handle that kind of crowd? Could it handle that kind of traffic? Because the reality is, the fairgrounds already struggles with the footprint it has today. However, there was one problem. This fight has never really been about attendance. And that's where things get complicated, because the people fighting for the fairgrounds aren't fighting for parking lots. They're fighting for history. For years, Speedway Motorsports has tried to bring a NASCAR-sanctioned event back to the fairgrounds. There have been renovation proposals, expansion plans, new ideas. But every single step forward has been met with resistance. The local community has pushed back hard. There are entire social media groups dedicated to stopping the project. Residents have raised concerns about noise, traffic, development, and in some cases they've gone directly after Dale Jr. himself. One resident even described him as another North Carolina billionaire who wants to run up credit card debt on Nashville taxpayers. And that's when everything changed, because Dale Jr.'s response was classic Dale Jr. He fired back and said, "A billionaire? I'd just buy the place." Simple, funny, sharp. But beneath the humor was a deeper truth. This debate has become incredibly personal and incredibly heated. What happened next surprised everyone, because Kenny Wallace isn't the only respected NASCAR voice expressing doubts anymore. Ken Schrader has joined the conversation too, and his concerns sound very familiar. Speaking on the Herman Schrader podcast, Schrader pointed to a vocal group within the community that simply doesn't want the speedway there long term. And according to him, the infrastructure concerns are real. There's nowhere to put the haulers, nowhere for teams to properly set up, very little room for expansion. The city has grown around the speedway, and now the speedway is boxed in, completely surrounded, which raises an uncomfortable question. Did the emotion of that incredible April night make people overlook the practical realities? Because when you're back at a track you haven't touched in 25 years, when the stands are packed, when the crowd is roaring, when the energy feels historic, it's easy to believe you're witnessing the future. But here's the thing, nostalgia doesn't build paddocks, nostalgia doesn't create garage space, nostalgia doesn't provide room for 50 haulers. And nostalgia doesn't silence neighbors who don't want race cars running late into the evening. After that April event, Dale Jr. said he was very optimistic that the track's future is secure. And maybe he's right. Maybe the fairgrounds absolutely has a future. As a grassroots racing venue, as a home for local racing, as a centerpiece for Cars Tour events, as a place where racing history continues to live. But a Cup Series race, an Xfinity Series race, that's a completely different challenge. The brutal reality is that modern NASCAR facilities are far bigger and far more demanding than they were decades ago. Today's events require extensive garage areas, media centers, sponsor activations, fan experiences, operations space, infrastructure everywhere. The fairgrounds wasn't built for that version of NASCAR, and the city surrounding it has made adapting to that reality increasingly difficult. So where does that leave Dale Jr.? Fine. It's a tough question because he isn't wrong. He's not wrong about what the fairgrounds means to the sport. He's not wrong about its history. He's not wrong about its soul. But Kenny Wallace, Ken Schrader, and the logistical realities surrounding the track may not be wrong either. And that's what makes this debate so fascinating. For NASCAR, the decision may eventually come down to one simple question. Do you chase a dream rooted in history, or do you chase 38,000 seats and room to grow? Now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Should NASCAR walk away from the fairgrounds and go all in on Nashville Superspeedway? Or do you think Dale Jr.'s fight is still worth fighting? Is this piece of NASCAR history worth saving? Or is it finally time to move on? Hit that like button, subscribe to NASCAR Nation News, and let's keep this conversation going. Because one thing is certain, this debate is only getting started.